And because you're born into the faith, you are Muslim. You have no choice. You don't actually choose at some point in your life to become a Muslim. You do want to convert people. But I was born in a home that, we counted ourselves blessed to be Muslims. We went to prayers. We tried to pray usually, as much as we could 5 times a day. And we, raised to understand who God was. And, God was, He had certain rules that He wanted us to follow. And it was necessary for me to make sure my obligations were fulfilled. And, the obligations, you pray a certain way. There was a certain set way you prayed, a certain direction you prayed. So everything was pretty much dictated. So I wasn't searching for higher meaning. I wanted to make sure that I was, not going to suffer the hellfire, if you wanted to call it. My search began, or a shift in my thinking began when I went to college. Met some friends who were believers, and I did not know what that was. I was invited to a church hayride, and that's a very prominent moment in my life because there were some kids on that ride too. But before they took us on the ride, there was a man there, and he shared what it meant to be a believer and what the sins of the world and Jesus, the whole thing. He took the sins away from us, from all of eternity, and the people in the future, people in the past, and I could not. That was the first time I actually heard what Jesus did for us, and that planted the seed. And I actually, pulled out the Bible and started reading some of the things just to see if I could make some sense of what was going on in my mind. When debating between converting from one religion to another, I felt a lot like a trapeze artist, where if you left one thing that you felt was secure and you let go of that, will the other one be there to catch you? And I struggled with that a lot. I thought about how Christianity handled situations versus how Islam handled them. When I first heard about what it is to have your sins taken away, I had intense conversations, intense doubt and debate over everything that one would think of. Think of what's going to happen when you convert and how that's going to impact you, your life, and your family. Just the fact that is Christianity real? And you have to allow yourself to go through all of those thoughts and take them to where they take you, so you can at least put them to rest. And so I had to and I had enough questions that I had gone over and said, what, I think this makes more sense than that. And, I think this situation, I think this would be, for example, the love and the forgiveness. If you were a family member and your son, did something they shouldn't have done, after they say, oh, you're sorry, you want to, give them a hug, love them, and accept them back. And you wouldn't want him or her, son or daughter, to pay a price to come back into the fold. So, those kinds of things just did not add up. You hit a wall. You're not really allowed to ask questions in Islam that much anyway. So when, I was hitting these walls, and I knew, okay, there's just something about this. And so I just went ahead, and I guess, the event they asked me to go to, it's a crusade that they do. Pastors come out. They have different ways of sharing the faith for people who might like church a different way, have people share their personal stories. So they talked about the power of God. They talked about how God can control the spiritual universe, can hold back evil powers, can hold back the bad things, and have great love and power, and give it to you to be able to use it and set you free. So that was great for me. I went out and I said, I'm going to take the leap, accept the Lord in my heart, and I'd heard terminology about that, and we prayed the sinner's prayer, and I think once that was done, all these loose ends start to come together. When I gave my life to the Lord at the crusade, I was, obviously on a high, at least on that evening, and I felt a sense of freedom. I felt a sense of the things that I was concerned about that stopped me from taking the sleep to begin with were no longer an issue. I did, my mom was, very dear to me, and it would have hurt her dearly that, her son is not a Muslim anymore. But it was as if I had this precious medicine that I had to share, and I had to do what I had to do to get this so I could share it with my family. And so the concerns that I had were not there anymore, and the excitement was when I read more about who God was. So much of the stuff that I did not understand, and the stuff that was unanswered, and how life should be, and how the world should be, or the universe should be, made sense. That love was a major part of it, and it was not just atoms come together to make something. And so, because there was an entity that loved me, something, and that I could give back, and I could share, and just all those questions that He had put in my heart were being answered. In my time of searching, I had, I would have instances where I would see something that would trigger a thought, and one of the things I saw was a billboard that just was so perfect for me. It said something like, the problem with a religion that has all the answers is that it doesn't allow any questions. And that was just perfect in the belief system that I was in at the time. It didn't allow any questions. It wouldn't let you do that. So, and I did also have a dream, and I think back now, maybe I didn't think too much of it at the time, but I was dreaming, and plain as day I saw Jesus, and He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And because I was so involved in all the stuff that I was thinking, I wrote it off as not a thing that made me jump, but at least it was a contributing factor that when I made a decision to make that leap of faith, it helped along. So it was part of the whole ingredients that made the package and made the final conversion. As a Christian believer, one of the favorite verses of mine were, my people are perishing for lack of knowledge. And it related to me, in a big way, because I came from a country, part of the world, that controlled the information flow in the country, controlled what you saw, what you heard, and because of an additional tool of peer pressure and just your society watching out after you, you didn't get this information. And I think back now that if Christianity was allowed in freely, they would have so many more converts in that country. So for me, I would tell those people who are not believers yet, who are Muslims, say, think about the fact that there might be some stuff that's kept from you. I would tell them, first and foremost, to understand that you may have been lied to. You may have been, information might have been kept from you. And then once you get to that point, you're willing to say, okay, let me read another viewpoint. And then you can take the step from that point on. The person that I pray for is a friend of mine from high school. And I pray for him that he may come into a place that he is exposed to a story like mine, or he finds a group of friends that are willing to share the truth about the gospel, because somebody was willing to share it with me. And if you don't hear it, there's no chance, for you to believe. And I pray for him that he hears that and he really gets a hold of the freedom, because I remember what his life was like and what his family situation was like, because we were all in that, and that it would be a marvelous thing that if he would hear that and be saved and know the Lord.